me smaller and I'll pay you back someday. Slipping up the holler, Dooley, trying to make a dollar. Dooley, give me a smaller and I'll pay you back someday. I remember very well the day old Dooley died. The women folk looked sorry and the men stood around and cried. Now Dooley's on the mountain, he lies there all alone. They put a jug beside him and a barrel for a stone. Dooley, slipping up the holler, Dooley, trying to make a dollar. Dooley, give me a smaller and I'll pay you back someday. And I'll pay you back someday.
You are listening to WOOP-LP, Cleveland, Tennessee. WOOP FM is a broadcasting service of the Traditional Music Resource Center, and we play America's original music.
Good morning and welcome to Old Town Cleveland here on WOOP FM 99.9, and go to the internet at www.woopfm.com. You can call us here at 614-5553. Debbie Moore, tell us what's going on besides it's raining.
It is raining, but it looked like from the inside of our concrete bombshell here at the Village Green Town Center that it may be clearing up a little bit, and I hope so, because there's a lot of activities going on in the community today. Today is September the 10th, 2015, and we have a very special guest today.
Who?
Us.
Oh, it's us.
We had the Supreme Court Justice from the Cherokee Nation come in to visit with us, and as he told us this week when we saw him, that his engagement in Maryville had been postponed, and he will be with us on another date. And I told him that Maryville was somewhere close to Merville.
Right.
He's not from the zip code.
Right. Well, he's from Oklahoma.
Yes, he
Right.
certainly is.
So, yeah,
fine fella.
Troy Poteet, the one of the Supreme Court justices of the Cherokee Nation, will be here later, probably about right after the first of the year. He said he is coming back.
The good news is he's coming to this area to plan next year's National Trail of Tears meeting, which will be very close to us in Dalton, Georgia.
Very close. And so if you have any interest in the Cherokee, and don't come in your headdress.
No.
This is this.
Don't tell anybody they're your Cherokee Indian princess.
Yeah,
either.
let me break everybody. Today we're going to talk about some Cherokee history. Deb and I just returned from the
I just knocked my knee off.
Returned from the National Trail of Tears meeting in Cape Girardeau. I hope I say Girardeau right.
Missouri.
And got to go to some dedications of, we went to dedications of 2 Trail of Tears sites that have now been marked, one at the Bollinger Mill and one in downtown Jackson, Missouri.
And we were also at the grave dedication marker for Nancy
Bushyhead.
Yes. Walker.
Some other name, but she was that's
Hildebrand.
Hildebrand.
I pulled it out of
That's
the
lady from Cleveland, Tennessee.
Yes, that occurred to me as we were seeing the dedication. And if you guys will think about that, she lived right here in Cleveland, Tennessee.
Out near Bigsby Creek?
No, she lived where Cleveland High School is.
Oh, okay, yes.
She was on the Jack Walker farm. She was his Indian wife, and he also had a white wife named Emily Meggs. And they lived up where, close to the Walgreens across from the Walmart North, and the Indian wife lived with her brother, Reverend Jesse Bushyhead, at where Cleveland High School is now located. And after his murder, apparently,
Walker.
of Chief Walker, she married a Hildebrand. I believe he was from Polk County. And when they got ready to go on the trail, he was one of the leaders of the Cherokees, and he decided to lead a group. And so she left her friend and family that was on the trail and went with him to help lead that group. And unfortunately, right after they crossed over the Mississippi River, she died and was buried there, and her grave was fortunately marked, because there's thousands of people that died on the trail that their graves were not marked. And so we were there the other day when they did a gravestone dedication for her, and that was very moving for us.
Okay, now, today, if you want to know anything about Cherokees, call in today, and we will tell you what we know or have learned over the years. And one thing I will assure you, and you may have heard this a million times in your life, that your great-great-grandmother was a Cherokee Indian princess. I hate to break your bubble this morning, but there was no royalty in the Cherokee Indians. They did not have a king, queen, chief, and their daughter was not called a princess. She was just the chief's daughter.
The chief's daughter, yes.
Right. So, and the chief sometime was more like the mayor of an area, not necessarily any royalty, and it didn't automatically pass down to his son, although it may have if they were the large property owners, but it wasn't a royalty type situation.
It was, if can you lead us?
Right. And John Ross, who was probably
1/8?
Yeah, 1/8 or 1/16 Cherokee. He was more of a white man. He was that, but he lived like a Cherokee and lived in there, and he was elected as the principal chief of the Cherokee Nation.
East, yes.
And so, and then when they moved out west, that's a whole big another story and a whole new battle. There
was a lot of politics in the Cherokee
Nation. There was
a
lot. Everything.
And still is.
So, but if you have questions later on today, we'll open up the microphones. A few other things going on in the community today up in Athens. Pumpkin Town events are going on up there. And then down right across the state line down into Prater's Mill there in Barnell, Georgia, is the Prater Mill Fair. It goes on. It runs from 9 to 6 today and 9 to 5 tomorrow.
That's right, and they have good food at the old store.
And they'll have music playing, and they'll have all kind of different vendors, crafts and things of that nature. And then they'll have food booths with barbecue and hamburger, hot dogs, and like at their general store there, they will have some beans and taters and greens and good old country cooking. I'd get there early to get that now.
Okay.
It goes pretty fast.
I'm sorry, Ron. Today, also in Charleston, they have their big tractor show, and it's at the Charleston Park. And I know that the activities are going on all day today. And the Heartstrings, our friend Jerry Lance and the Heartstrings will be singing at 11:30.
Oh, they're a great group.
Yeah, great group of people.
Even though with Jerry's in there. Jerry's the weak link of the group, but the rest of them are pretty good.
And we have a lot of things coming up the next couple of weeks here in Cleveland and Bradley County, and we'll tell you about those a little bit later. Today at B&B Marina, and this flyer does not have a time on it. It's a hot rod and motorcycle fun run and show. It will benefit Norm Pedersen, Colonel Sean Norm Pedersen. And they're also going to be showing the Georgia versus Tennessee football game, live music from Dagger Blue, and 2-for-1 appetizer specials and tent camping. So if you want to go up and support a local veteran, go up and see them today at B&B Marina.
All right. So
we need to say hello to our friends down at the Spot. We were down there today, and we go in every Saturday morning about 8 o'clock and get a big old sausage biscuit on a homemade biscuit from Miss Kathy. and the folks at the spot. And this week, while we were in Missouri, we were talking to a young lady that is putting together the historic district of downtown Cleveland.
Yeah.
And the spot building will be one of those buildings that will be listed as being significantly historical. Ron did tell her that the chili tasted good because the pot had never been washed, and she looked kind of horrified. But we were
Well, it's true. I mean, if you remember the spot, you will remember the big chili pot there, and it had a crust across the top of it. I think it had never been washed, and that's what brought all the flavor.
So we're going to get the downtown area designated as a historical district, and I will get with her this week. There are some buildings that we have questions about that I just remember that they were remodeled, but I don't remember when and where or how that came about. And I do know that there's some real original parts of buildings that are located inside, and we need to get in and look at those. But we have the block that the Stampers building is in, of course, the old Banner building, the block with Craig Mile Hall on it, the block across from the spot that has the Masonic Lodge in it. It has to be a continuous space, and they're going to designate the old Bradley County Jail also. So that's going to be a real plus for us. That will help preserve those buildings, and we hope that all the owners want to participate. And then in Ron, on November the 14th, we're going to have Rufus Triplett come in with some other folks from the Cleveland Historical District, which is the Centenary Avenue and designated area. And one thing that this helps do, the history of the buildings get written down and the homes get written down and saved, and that's a really important thing for us. So we're going to have them in here talking about the historical homes up around Centenary Avenue and in that district, so that'll be kind of exciting too.
One other historical district that I know you are working on now is the Flint Springs, Red Hill, Red Clay area will become a historical district for the Cherokee, and hopefully the
And Pioneers too.
Pioneers. So that will be a very interesting thing. Oh,
Well, Ron, that reminds me of something.
okay.
Something that the National Band of, let me rephrase here, the Cherokee Nation has started doing, and it was a surprise to me when the Cherokee Nation says, we don't have trails in Oklahoma to mark for the Trail of Tears. And I'm thinking, we have them all over Bradley County. Every road in Bradley County had Cherokees either walking to Fort Cass or walking away from Fort Cass.
The roads at 1838.
And at roads in 1838. We haven't built very many new roads since then. But anyway, they were talking about they wanted to do something to recognize the Trail of Tears. And so they have started marking the graves of survivors of the Trail of Tears. And it's a real emotional thing for the families. And not only do they get the graves marked, but the historians from the Cherokee Nation is doing their genealogy for them and presenting it to the families at the dedications. And there was a man named David Miller that was recently recognized, and he got a marker on his grave. And he was born near Red Clay, Tennessee, in what is now Bradley County. And I'm pretty sure he was from the lower Flint Springs area. He was the son of a white woman named Nancy Ward Miller, not Nancy Ward the Indian, but this was a white woman, and a Cherokee man, Avery Van Miller. He was only a fourth blood, okay? But he was a fourth blood, had a white wife, and still was removed out west. And he was often the interpreter for the Moravian Mission. And David entered school in 1838 in Georgia, but his family was forcefully removed at that time, and he came back into Tennessee and then left on the Trail of Tears at the age of 5. His mother died on the trail. So I thought that was a real close connection to the Red Clay area, and I'm going to see if I can find out where their farm was located and what they got paid for their property when they left.
Okay, but as most people in this area know, of course, that the Cherokee Indians covered about 7 states in this area before the white man came in, and then every year after the white men, the Europeans, started immigrating into our area, they kept squeezing the Cherokee Indians and taking their land through different types of treaties, and that the white men never continued to honor most of the treaties, and the Cherokees peacefully were being moved out. It come up to as white men moved in, they also tried the Cherokee tried to become more European themselves, and one of the first things they did was a group of missionaries came in and opened up a mission in Bradley County, the first mission, far as history can tell us, and the name of the mission was Candies Creek Mission. It's near Candies Creek, and to give you a reference, if you turn on to Candies Creek Ridge Road, just down in that area down there near the creek, there was
Actually, the spring was on. If you turn on to Candies Creek Ridge Road from Paul Hoff Parkway, the mission school, the well for the mission school, or the spring that fed the mission school, is right on your right, and we think the building was right there.
And so some of the names of the kids that went there were Foreman's, which was a big Cherokee name. Bushy Head, Biggs, you know where Bigsby Creek is. Bigsby is there, and then Candies, Candies Creek Ridge, or Candies at the time was spelled C-A-D-Y.
Apostrophe S.
Apostrophe S. That was Candies Creek. It was Chief Candy who owned a large, what you call it? Reserve in that area.
Which went from about where Jackson Farm is now, north all the way up to Hopewell, at least.
So a lot of the, Bushy Head went on and was very involved in the Trail of Tears, involved in Oklahoma. Their children went on to become sheriffs. One was a sheriff in California. One of them was in television, as the Bushy Heads continued through the years. So a very well-known family from this area, from the Cherokee. So the first mission was built right there. That historical sign put up about 1940-ish.
38.
Oh, okay.
At the 100th anniversary.
Yeah. It's gone.
It's gone.
It's not, and we don't know where it is. Like most historical signs, someone is melting them down. And
if it's in somebody's barn, we need it back.
Anyway,
no questions asked.
We would just love to have it back, put it up. If not, we will have to find someone to. The state will replace it. We just got to put it on the list, and 20 years from now, they'll replace it, or we can pay for it, which is about $1,700, give or take $1 or $2. But what we would like to see done, we're going to do a little political speech here real quick. Right across the street from that area now is property that the city of Cleveland has bought to build a new grammar school there right across from where the mission is. We think it'd be extremely appropriate and very historic for our community to name that Candies Creek Elementary. Now,
C-A-N-D-Y apostrophe S.
or we would give up and let it be Candies, C-A-D-I-E-S. As you go now, you'll see the creek is actually named Candies, C-A-N-D-I-E-S. But we would give up, we would be glad to call it Candies Creek School Elementary, or Candies.
I wouldn't fight over that.
Yeah, but Candies. So if you know a county commission, a city councilman, a city school board member, put in the word for that. We're going to start pushing that, with our friends, and we, like say, maybe even get the chief of the Cherokee Nation to say, "Hey, that'd be a sure nice thing to do."
That would be a good
and
idea.
The Supreme Court, some of the people that we know. So we know the Troy.
We met them. We know Troy pretty well.
We know Troy well, but we met the chief, and of course the Eastern Band would probably be willing to do that. And then if we get the historical sign found, or we buy a new one, we could put it at the school, so we'd have a historical marker there,
so the children would see it.
And so it's just a great way to save our history, because man, we have done a terrible job in Bradley County of saving the history. So now,
when we go to these meetings, it's so apparent to us what a I mean, people go, "You're from Fort Cass?
Yes.
You're from Charleston?" But they found while we were there over the week that they could come to us and say, "My family was removed from the mouth of Candy's Creek. Do you know?" And they'd start talking to you, and we'd go, "Yeah, we know where that's at." And we'd start explaining to them where their family would have been, the general area where they'd been, by what description they could give us that was on the family's evaluation. And it was really moving for those families. And next year, when they come from Dalton, they come to Dalton, I'm sure I'm going to be conducting a tour too.
There'll be a lot of people coming here to Bradley County from Dalton. Now, with all that said, our next thing is the Charleston Calhoun Hiwassee Historical Society, and the work of Darlene Goins and Faye Calloway and some other people up there have got the National Park Service now recognizing Fort Cass, and they're going to do amazing things. So finally, Fort Cass, Bradley County, Charleston, and where the Trail of Tears, when we say it began there, is basically General Winfield Scott that was his office, and all orders, no matter where you left from on the Trail of Tears, came from Charleston, Tennessee. Pretty amazing that we led. I mean, so if they were in Fort Payne, Alabama, if they were Choctaws, you got to remember Choctaws and the Creeks were also forced on the Trail of Tears. So General Winfield Scott, which there's monuments of him in Washington, D.C., but no Cherokee monuments there.
You know, not only did we have Fort Cass, which was Charleston, but the Indian agencies, Ron, came into this area as early as 1792. And at that time, the Indian agent's job was to promote living like a white person. And the women at that time, the Cherokee women at that time, were raising the children and raising the crops. And the men were going off and hunting to provide that kind of food. Well, that didn't quite fit the white people's way. And so they tried over a course of several generations to get the women out of the gardens and into the house with weaving and spinning
And cooking.
and the men to do the women's, what they would consider in their brain to do the women's work, which was the agricultural stuff. And so the agencies, there's lots of receipts where the agent has given farming tools to the men, and they gave the spinning wheels and the looms and all that to the women. And then they had several different jobs. First of all, they wanted the people to adopt the white culture, and they tried to keep the squatters away. You know, people knew that this land was going to open up because every treaty that the Indians had made with the U.S. government had ended up taking the land from them. So there were squatters coming in so that they would have occupational rights. And they was also, they were trying to convince the Indians all along just to go ahead and move themselves before there had to be a forced removal.
A lot did it.
A lot did, and they're called the old settlers, and some of them had been there 30 or 40 years when the final removal came about. They settled disputes between whites and Indians too. At first, the Indians kind of scooted over and let the white people come move on the backside of their farm. But then greed took over, and there were disputes over land and the killing of cattle and those kinds of things.
Well, in Georgia, they was killing of Indians.
Yeah, they were killing the Indians there. 1793, the Indian Agency was in Kingston, Tennessee, what's now Kingston, Tennessee. In 1807, after that treaty gave away that land to the white people, in 1807, the agency moved to the Hiwassee Garrison, which is where the Hiwassee River and the Tennessee River comes together there near Ray County. It was over in Ray County. And 1820, once all those lands north of the Hiwassee River went to the white folks, I'll call them, the agency in 1820 was built in what's now Charleston, Tennessee. It occupied 640 acres. Now, it looks like to me that is basically what we now know as the Bend of the River Farm and a little bit of the city. That's what the agency was. Fort Cass, when it came around, in 1835, it was the largest immigration depot that was used during the removal was in what's now Charleston, Tennessee, and it went 4 miles wide by 8 miles long. It would come just about down to where North Lee School and Hardwick Farm and all of that is now.
So, and Fort Cass was not. Don't think about Indian pictures.
Movies. Don't
You know,
think about
where
it.
there's a wooden forest with a palisade around it. That's not what it was. It was just the houses there, and there was a headquarters, and then they did have holding pens. Some called them more like cattle pens, where they made the Indians sleep out in the open ground, and there was forceful removal. A lot of it removed themselves. Now stop and think. In 1938
Or 1838.
18, a little before that, is if you were in McMinn County, you were in the United States of America.
Mm-hmm.
If you were across the river, you were in the Cherokee Nation, which was not the United States. It was its own nation.
You had to have
And
a
it's held.
passport to get in.
To get across the river, you had to check in and check out. They had their own law. They had their own judges. Judge Martin's house is down here on Dalton Pike. They had their own police force. Chief Jack Walker was a constable for the Cherokee Nation and led a big role into the troops finally coming and knocking us out, and we'll tell that story a little later on. We're going to open the phones right now. If you got any questions or
Or
comments,
if you want to talk about most anything.
yeah, we'll talk about it. Remember, there is no Cherokee Indian princesses,
And we
so,
won't mention that again.
so don't call us and tell us your grandmother was, because it's not true. I'm sorry. Okay, we're going to open the phones. You can call us here, 614-5553. Our guest today is Debbie Moore and Ron Moore, and
Some of our favorite people.
and some of the people who, and I just know when Deb's here, I don't get to talk. So, good morning. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Good morning, Ron Dale. How's it going?
Hey, Bullet, what's going on, buddy? Is it still raining?
It's supposed to quit at 1 o'clock, I believe. It's not raining too hard right now.
Okay.
Last time I saw Ron was the Cleveland game. He was going up there with 3 hot dogs, I believe.
Well, I had one in my pocket, so it was really 4.
Yeah, Bradley had a good win last night, Ron, and of course Cleveland had a good loss, and but at least one of our local teams is doing good.
Well, Bradley ironically won a shootout, 56-42, and it was a game that everyone thought from the beginning of the season that Kingsport Dobbins Bennett would win, and they were doing very, very well in this district, and Bradley beat them. But the week before, Bradley had been favored to beat them all year, and Bearden beat them. So it's been a crazy, mixed up area. So right now, if Bradley could beat Hardin Valley now, and they got to take on Maryville too, and then William Blunt, Bradley could finish and host a first-round playoff team now. By beating Kingsport and to beat Hardin, they will be a first-round. And maybe they'll go up and beat Maryville this year. Who knows?
Well, I actually hope they do. Ron, I just wanted you and Deb to. I just want everybody to keep their prayers for old Keith Beatty. I've known him over 50 years.
Yes.
Me and Jerry Fraser have been talking back and forth about him, and he had surgery, and I think he's doing. I think he's stable right now, but he's still critical, and I just want everybody to keep their prayers out for him. He's a good guy.
He sure is, and it's a sad situation for him. And I know he's been sick for several weeks now, but have had some more complications. Had some surgery in the last 2 or 3 days, and the surgery went well, but it doesn't mean he's out of hot water yet. I mean, he's still in critical condition.
Yeah, he is. That third man's been going through a lot, and he's been a friend of mine, like I say, for over 50 years, I guess. And I just want to call in, Ron, and say that now, is that Bradley game at home this Friday night?
Yes, it is.
I'm going to have to go to Bradley game because Cleveland's off.
Yeah.
Well, it just upsets me to no end, Bullet. I know that you got to go around and play people from your same size schools and stuff, but that was a 3-hour drive last night for Bradley fans.
Sure.
And then there was a rain delay, a lightning delay, and so I imagine people didn't get home till 3 o'clock or after.
Probably. All the games had delays last night. Wish all the 3 schools would get together and not have all 3 schools out of town on the same night.
But Ron, I used to do a lot of traveling back in the day. I used to go to Dixon County. That was halfway to Memphis. I didn't get home about to about 3 o'clock in the morning.
We were younger then, Bullet.
Yeah. Well,
I guarantee you, I haven't missed many Bradley games since about '65, and I did not go last night. I did have it on the radio all night and sit there and listen to it, but being able and having to come in here and do the show in the morning, and it raining and bad weather, I'm just not built like I used to be.
I'm not here, Ron. Anyway, Ron, I just wanted to talk about Keith here a little bit, and I do appreciate you and Deb letting me do that, and I'll be seeing you later.
All right,
thank you.
thanks. Yeah, our thoughts go out to Keith Beatty today. We understand he's had a rough week this week, and maybe he's back on the mend now. We certainly hope so.
Yes.
Yes, and if Ed's listening, we'd love to have an update on how the reunion went out at Trevina. And we'd also, Don Guerin did an excellent job on the Help Me Templeton Hill School reunion. How exciting those reunions were, and how excited everyone was to see each other. And then I've had as many people tell me they wish they'd been able to go than what we saw there. There were hundreds there.
Yes.
People that I didn't realize lived in that community.
Well, it was a big community. Growing up, working class, the mill families, a lot of them there.
Which is where a lot of us came from. Ron, let's get this call.
Good morning. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Good morning. We can't hear you. Oh, sounds like somebody on a cell phone. Try again. Call us back.
All right.
Ron and I out in Missouri, one place that we did go was the Bollinger Mill.
Bollinger.
Bollinger Mill and Covered Bridge. We'll tell you about that in just a second. Let's get this
Go ahead,
call.
caller. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Yeah, this is T, Bandy.
Hey, what's going on today, T?
A lot of rain.
Yep.
We just went to breakfast at Andrews this morning. Just got out of there. Now I got another fish truck coming the 31st of October.
Oh, you told us a story. You said you weren't going to have one to next year.
Well, I know I didn't name to.
Okay, fish truck.
They told me.
October 31st.
Yeah, at 11 o'clock.
At 11 o'clock. And if you need to order fish, you can call T at 423-478-2405.
Right.
All righty, Mr. T.
Do what?
Did you have a nice trip?
Oh,
We
yes,
did. We did have a nice trip until we got to about Fort Campbell and all the way through Nashville. It was rough traffic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Was, yeah. Well, you have a nice day.
Thank you for calling. Bye-bye.
Stay dry.
Bye-bye. Well, the thing about Bollinger Mill, what was it, 4 stories high, Ron?
Yes.
How many stories did it feel like when your knees were going up and down all those steps?
5.
And we were when we pulled up in the parking lot, we just stood there and looked at that beautiful 4-story brick building with its little covered bridge next to it, and we were absolutely sick because we know that there were mills like that on every creek in Bradley County, and
Hooper Mill was a big, tall mill.
Hooper's Mill was a big, tall mill like that, and I have shoes older than the girl that took us on the tour, so I'm sure that some of the historic information wasn't quite with her yet, and I didn't quite understand, how it was milled and stuff, but they have a lot of the original equipment on the inside because it was going to be too expensive to remove it. Why they wanted to remove it, the National Park Service, I don't know. But if you ever get out to Missouri, I believe was in Beaufort, Missouri.
Go to Cape Girardeau and ask.
And they had a really cute antique store there, and a few of the old houses, including the Bollinger house, was still standing, although it looked like it was in pretty bad shape. But there's a park ranger station there, and we were really excited to be there.
Basically, go to Cape Girardeau, find Williams Street, and
It's actually a state park, isn't it, Ron? Okay.
Go to Williams Street, which will take you to historic downtown Cape Girardeau, and then go back west on Williams Street, and just keep going on that road, and their sign comes out, and you take a left, you'll go down Bollinger. So it's pretty easy to find. There's the city's laid out pretty.
The reason we were there is that they were dedicating 2 Trail of Tears signs, one for the Binge route, they were for the Binge route and the Taylor route. Both went through there, and you have to kind of understand that after a while, after so many groups had come through, they would move over to the next set of roads or way to get someplace so that they could find provisions, because all the provisions were gone. So the trail sometimes looks kind of like a fan when you get into some communities where a lot of people pass through.
If you look at the map, it's a little strange. They did not have a GPS and did not go in too much of a straight line, because they left like from this area, and some of them ended up going up to Illinois, then back down through Missouri, through Arkansas, and into Oklahoma. Well, we would think just take Highway 64 along the bottom of the state of Tennessee, and you go right into Memphis, into Arkansas over there, and it would save hundreds of miles. Well, they may not have been roads.
Well, some of them started off on boats, and then they ran out of water because it was a big drought.
Yeah.
And they had to get off the boats, and before they could get where they were going, they were way out of their way walking then. The snow and ice moved into Illinois, and they were in a heck of a trouble then.
Let's get this call. Good morning. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Well, I'm running by over at Charleston on my way up through here, and they've got tractors sitting everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I got on up the road, and there's a nice young lady said, "How close are you listening to Whoop Radio?" And
They're talking about you.
I'm driving, and my mind's out, Johnny. She said, "Well, they're talking about you. Better call them see."
So, Ed, how did your reunion go?
Oh, sweetheart, I guarantee you it went good. We had pretty good turnout, and everything went good. Had plenty to eat. I had a lot of smiling faces. So while I'm on here, we're going to move that over to Lebanon Church next year. We got air conditioning and everything.
Uh-huh.
We're going to to move it over there next year and see how that works.
I think that that's a good plan. Then whatever the weather might be, it will not matter.
Well,
And I think a lot of people are doing that these days, except for the great big festivals that can't get, indoors anywhere. But I think that's great. Did you get to see any new pictures this year? Not too many?
They keep me so busy I don't get time to do much. You'll have to check with some of them jokers that didn't have much to do. If we got some that comes and fills them plate up, walks around, looks nice, and they see everything, but I get cheated out at it every year.
I understand, but we really appreciate what you do. Now, if you run into P-Dab up at the tractor show, you tell him to give us a call and let us know how things are going on up there.
Well, I'm in the big city of Riceville right now.
Oh.
And
Well, let me say this to you. Slow down.
I'm doing 185 and I keep turning to the left. That's all right, eh?
That's right.
We always say, welcome to Calhoun. Slow down.
Then when I go back through Charleston, I'll give you a report there how it's doing. It was peppered down rain a while ago.
Well,
They said maybe to 1 o'clock.
But yeah, they've got John Deere sitting everywhere, and I seen an Oliver riding down the road smiling. You know what an Oliver is?
Nope.
That's a tractor.
All righty, Ed. Thanks so much for calling.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Little thing that Fort Cass, some people have asked, why was it called Fort Cass? There was nobody by the name of Fort Cass or Cast that lived in Bradley County, and the general's name was General Winfield Scott. So where did Fort Cass? And Deb, that was Lewis Cass, the Secretary of War, and the fort was named after him. Apparently, he had ran for president. He was an ambassador, the governor of Michigan, and so.
Oh, he's a Yankee. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Let's get this call.
Yeah, good morning. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Good morning. We're sitting up here at the tractor show waiting on it to quit raining before we can unload our tractor.
Okay, who is this? Is this?
This is Gino Lake.
Okay.
So
There are several tractors here, though, and it's slacking up a little bit, but it has been raining really hard.
you don't get your tractor out in the rain?
Well, maybe, but I don't want to get wet.
There you go.
Well, see, I remember.
The older I get, the more I like my underwear to remain dry.
I remember. I remember used to.
Everybody that Come on up. It's going to clear off.
I remember sitting the tractor out in the front yard, and you just got you a can and put it over the exhaust. That's all you had to do.
Yeah, and I always liked when my daddy fired up the tractor and that can would go flying up in the air.
Right.
Well, thank you. Let us know how it's going here in a little while and what kind of food's for sale up there.
Okay.
Thank you, dear.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So, and Winfield Scott, tell you a little bit about him. General Winfield Scott was appointed as he started in, the fort wasn't there originally, but it finally moved to Charleston, as Deb explained earlier, and he took someone else's place. And he had been in the Mexican War, the Creek War, the War of 1812. He also went all the way into the Confederate War.
Yes, Civil
One
War.
of his people under his command was a guy named Custard.
Yeah.
Custer was, if you didn't know, led a Michigan cavalry troop, and after he almost made it through what's that big army place up there, West Point.
Yeah.
And so that's who Winfield Scott was. And every order, he didn't spend all of his time here. Matter of fact, he went up into Cherokee, up into what we call Cherokee, North Carolina. Is that true? He's going to go up there because he thought there was going to be
Murphy. He went to Murphy
bigger
to
rebellion there.
Fort Butler because there were 3,000 Indians up there that were needing to be gathered up, and they really thought with those numbers that they would have a lot of trouble on their hands. So the troops actually went in there pretty forcefully and brought those Indians into Fort Butler. And these are people that later became members of the Cherokee Nation, not the Eastern Band. The other encampments, there were 4 here in this area, but I don't know anything about this. There were 4 in this area. Fort Payne, which the Binge route came out of there.
Tell me when you say Ben's route.
Binge is somebody's last name.
Someone who led,
And
the leader
you
of
were
that
basically, if you led the group, it was the Binge group.
group.
And
Were you a military or a Cherokee?
Cherokee.
Okay. Okay.
Now, the first few groups that went were led by the military, and it was a debacle, a tragedy. Lots of people died because the first thought was, hey, we've got all these rivers, and we'll just put everybody on boats, and we'll just float them out to Oklahoma and, set them out in Arkansas or something, or at the end of Arkansas. And there was the biggest drought that we'd had in centuries. And as I said earlier, some of them got started and then they couldn't go on, and then they got stuck on the banks of the river for 6 months. And
when it got cold weather,
they finally decided they were going to
Ice.
start walking them.
ice got, and they couldn't cross it.
Yeah.
I know the ladies tell me a story about there at Cape Girardeau, right? If you go into Cape Girardeau, it's about the Mississippi River runs beside it. Over on the Illinois side, it was swamp, muddy, flat land, which flooded, and
That's where they were stuck.
They were stuck there in this muddy. If you've ever been in flat lands of Illinois, the lower part down there, it was just
Swamp.
and then if the river rose, it was going to flood them, and then going across, there was no good place to cross.
And I said, as we stood in Missouri and looked across that big river over into Illinois, I said to the gentleman standing next to me, who is a member of the Eastern Band, I believe he told me, but I said, I cannot imagine as a mother standing here thinking I'm going to have to cross that river on some little flat boat with my wagon and my children, and what's that going to be like? And he said, but ma'am, you need to understand, they were coming from Illinois and they were coming over across the river, and they were looking over here at these big rocky cliffs and saying, where in the world are we going to go when we get over there? And that's true. And a lot of times, half the group would be on one side of the river and the other half would be on the other side, and they were just death and dying on both sides. But
Fort Payne, you're talking about
Fort Payne. Okay, the different encampments in this area were Ross's Landing at Chattanooga, who took people out of Georgia and Tennessee. Fort Payne, Alabama, that gathered up a lot of people just from Alabama, and then Fort Butler in Murphy. If you want to go visit the site of Fort Butler, go to downtown Murphy and stand next to the old train depot, and you are there. That areas where they gathered them up.
You passed the brand new casino.
Yes.
Going into downtown
Yeah.
Murphy.
You know, the interesting thing about the casino, it's been in in Cherokee now for about 20 years. And 2014 or something, each member of the Eastern Band, not only did they benefit from the things that the money built, but they were each given $6,000.
Yeah.
So it does make a great impact on
Free health care, their schools improved, a lot of great things. Go ahead, caller. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Hey, Ron.
Hey,
Hey, Red, what's up, sister?
I just want to tell y'all, you said there wasn't no Indian princes.
yeah.
Well, I was an Indian princess. I was on that Trail of Tears.
You were that.
Did you go out with Bob Cash?
No, I didn't.
I'm going to tell you right now, I've got on my Tennessee shirt, and it's in honor of their defeat of Georgia today.
Well, whoop-de-doo. Last week, I won my bet. I bet on Alabama winning, and they did.
Georgia's going to beat Tennessee today, I'm afraid to say.
Well, everybody bet on Georgia last week, but I didn't.
I bet on Georgia last week.
I didn't. I bet on Alabama.
Well, you should have warned me.
You have to learn it.
Well, every time I think
He's a slow learner.
every time I think I get all this football figured out, somebody changes the rules.
Yeah.
So.
But I was just wondering, them boys that plays on Alabama's team, how long do they stay in college?
7 years.
It looks to me like some of them 40 years old. I think he'll stay longer than that.
That's 7 years on the football team.
Yeah, but they keep going back.
Yeah. Well, some of them are 5th and 6th year seniors.
Well, that's true. I said they go out and work their day job and then come in there and play football.
Yeah. Well, us Tennessee folks are just going to keep our mouths shut.
Okay.
we got to win one, then we're going to brag like hell, but, it hasn't been yet.
You're just waiting for that day to come.
I've got it stored up. Oh, my gosh. I've got bragging.
If they beat Georgia, I'll never hear the end.
You will not. Yeah, I know.
I'm just going to pack up and move.
Well, you need to, because I'm going to come after you.
I'm going to go back to Georgia.
I'll wear an orange shirt every time I come in here.
All we're going to see you in is orange.
Right.
Well, now he'll tell you that there was no wearing a Tennessee shirt to Missouri where we went.
Oh, yeah. I was going to Missouri and going,
I don't care where I go. I wear my Georgia shirts. I've got on one now. This man looked at me in Walmart when I walked in over the other day. I thought he was going to hit me.
I know. I like Georgia folks. Except today, my mom was a Georgia girl.
So was my mom. So am I.
Well, that's great.
There you go.
Yeah,
He done one smart thing in his life.
That's
He married
right.
me.
He sure did. I give him that.
right.
Okay.
Thanks, Red.
Hey, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey, don't forget that the Trail of Tears national meeting will be in Dalton, Georgia next year. And to attend, you need to be a member of the National Trail of Tears Association. And, Deb, how do you do that?
Well, you go to nationaltota.org, and you have to pay your membership dues, which is about $30, $25 or $30. That gets you to be a member of the national organization in one state of your choice. And then when the time comes for the meeting, it's $125 a person. And first of all, you say,
What it was this year.
well, that's what it usually is
Yeah.
about every year. And a lot of the years, the organization absorbs some of the costs because that does not pay the costs involved for what they do. We went on a field trip Wednesday where they put us on big Trailways buses and entertained us for 8 hours, showing us stuff and going to dedications and being fed and stuff. Let's get this call.
Hey, good morning. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Hey, Deb.
Yes.
What's his brain out?
Let me say it one more. I didn't hear what you said. Say it again.
Tennessee's going to whoop Georgia.
Oh, Tennessee's going to whoop Georgia. I heard her that time, Ron.
Preach on, sister. Preach on.
You need your brain washed out.
I say and preach on. I just hope you're not a false prophet.
Debbie, I don't know what to tell you, honey.
Okay.
Okay.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
What time's that game come on, Ron? Do you know, and where it's going to be
Too
televised?
soon.
Too soon? Okay.
I don't know where it's going to be televised. Someone will tell me and where to watch and and I done got my crying towel
But
ready.
the folks down in Dalton and in the Georgia chapter of the Trail of Tears has already been working on this for about 6 months for next year. And I understand the bus trip next year is going to be from Dalton to Ellijay, and they're going to show you all the Indian sites between there and Dalton and Ellijay and all the stuff around Ellijay. But we're going to the McNair house in Ellijay, and we're going to be able to tour that farm, which I think will be pretty exciting. And that's probably where our evening meal will be. This year, we went to a Cherokee hog fry. And, Ron's like, what are we going to eat? And I said, just whatever's on your plate, just eat it.
All right, I don't want to correct you, but this was a Choctaw hog
It was
fry.
a Cherokee hog fry with Choctaw sides.
Okay.
How's that?
All right.
Because we had some really good people cooking. They take a whole hog and they obviously slaughter it, take all the innards out, everything that you wouldn't want to eat was removed. And they chop the rest of it into real small chunks, and they leave the skin
And the fat.
on it and the fat on it. And then they
render that.
they put it down in a big vat and they render that, which means it's deep fat fried in its own fat. And they had how many cookers? 4 big cookers and 4 big guys operating them. And so that was the main course. They also had hominy with pork meat in it. They had baja, which we went, ooh, well, thank you very much.
Crushed up beans.
It's rolled up into a little ball.
Beans with cornmeal rubbed together, and it did not taste that good.
No. Now, our friend sitting next to us, who is she does traditional cooking, she said, I deep fat fry these and they're really good. Of course, anything's better when you deep fat fry it.
Fried bread, of course.
We had fried bread. We had pinto beans that were pretty southern traditional beans. We had potatoes that were fresh potatoes that had been cut and had been fried like French fries.
And grape dumplings.
Grape dumplings, one of my favorite. The sauce is almost like a grape syrup, and it has little dumplings floating in it, and it's pretty good grub. And that's what we had for our meal at the Trail of Tears Park in Missouri.
Folks, you're listening to Whoop FM 99.9, or you can go to the internet at www.whoopfm.com. If you'd like to chat with us online, you can go on to whoopfm.com, and you can sign up in the chat room. It takes you a few minutes to sign up for your screen name and password, and then you can chat, and Deb usually monitors that, and we take questions that way, or you can call us here at 614-5553. Today we're talking about the Trail of Tears and how all this area was involved in it. If you have any interest in that, Deb and I have been discussing, I don't know, that we may put together a one-day Cherokee history class with the basics and to tell you all the names and the people. And there's several people, probably 3 or 4 speakers, Deb being one of the
I keep
experts.
telling him I don't know anything.
Yeah. And then we've got some names we haven't talked to them yet, but and which where we may have it at Red Clay or may have it in here in Cleveland. The cost probably going to be about $20, and the money will be raised for the historical society here to put back into history projects in our community.
The project we need to do at this moment is Charleston has put up a lot of signs that on the roads going into Charleston that says, "Welcome to historic Fort Cass." Well, on the west side of town, it's my understanding, going towards Blythe's Ferry, they don't have the money to put those signs up yet. And $1,000 would go a long way to get that done. And that's one thing that we're looking at. And so we want you listening in case we decide to do this. I think we can get a good friend of ours, Larry, to come up out of Alabama to do a session. Maybe Anita Fingersmith from the Eastern Band to come do something. And
About Sheriff Joe Guy.
Sheriff Joe
Probably
Guy.
wrote the best summary of the murder of Chief Jack Walker and how that murder actually was the final nail in the coffin for the federal troops to move here and take. it's very interesting that a murder had nothing to do with the Trail of Tears, but come out to be the final nail of that. Once again, you remember is that we live here in Bradley County, in the final council grounds where they made the final decisions, where the forecasts, where they come in and made all the laws, all the rules and all the directives of the troops on how to remove, all the way to Fort Payne. The Trail of Tears included, once again, the Cherokee, the biggest that. It had the Choctaws, the Creeks, the Seminoles.
The Seminoles fought back and didn't.
They never moved.
Nope.
But they, and what?
They got killed.
I'm leaving out one tribe. Creeks, Choctaws, Seminoles, Cherokees.
Chickasaws?
Chickasaws, yeah, that's it. That's the one I always forget. And so...
So when we go to these national meetings, you hear more about the Choctaws and the Chickasaws and the Creeks than you hear when we talk about local history, because we had a few Creek that were actually brought to Fort Cass, but it was 5. But at Blythe Ferry, they fly the Cherokee flag and the Creek flag in honor of the Creeks that went through there. Let's get this call.
Good morning, live on Old Town Cleveland.
Hey, it's Dwight Richardson. How you doing?
Hey, Dwight. Buddy, tell us how you got involved with the storytelling and when that's going to be in downtown.
Okay, that event, this is the 8th annual event.
8th? Jeez.
It's been very successful. It's going to be Monday and Tuesday, October the 26th and 27th. That's the week coming into Halloween. We just, when we came up with this idea, we just wanted to have an alternative, not a haunted house, nothing blood and guts. Nobody's going to stab anybody or anything like that. We just wanted. There's so much history, and I kind of got inspired by your program and everything else, but we wanted to tell a little bit of history, folklore, and mystery about Cleveland. Mm-hmm. And pretty much all of our stories are true. They may be embellished just a little bit, but typically there's a lot of truth in what we've told. And it's just a great event. We put about 250, 300 people through that in a 2-night period, which is a lot of people. We have small tour groups. We try to keep them 15 to 20 to 25 people per group. It is a candlelit tour, so when it gets dark, everything will be by candlelight or by lantern, and it will be in downtown Bank of Cleveland. If you've ever been in that bank much, it can be kind of spooky at night.
Yeah. Now, my suggestion is this is not for the very young, just because you have to be able to sit and listen for a few minutes.
That's right. It's not that it's scary or anything, but, if a child's cried out or whatever, it kind of breaks the mood. So it's really not for small children.
What are the stories this year?
This year, we're going to this is every year we do this one. The Stamper Ghost is a very popular story.
Mm-hmm. Joe told that one on our show not too long ago.
Okay. And, of course, there is an illusion, at that story, so you'll be able to see the ghost.
Yeah. Good.
And blood stains on the mausoleum is also told every year. That's a very popular story. Pete Vanderpool will tell that one.
Mr. Vanderpool was standing there one year, and I was on the tour, and I went walking up, and this was before the actual tour started. I was on my way downtown and just stopped by because he looked so interesting standing there. Yeah. And when I could tell him more than he could tell me, he finally said, "Who in the world are you?"
Yeah, he told me about that. I remember that because you told him a lot of stuff.
You said, must have been Debbie Moore.
Yeah, and of course the church is very gracious to let us. We don't actually go inside the mausoleum, but they do prop the door open so we can shine a light in there and actually see the inside. A lot of people haven't ever seen the inside, which is beautiful.
Yes, and I was real disappointed when they restored the mausoleum 2 or 3 years ago that they removed those original heavy gates that had Nina's name on it, but I think that was probably just for security. They probably couldn't secure them.
Yeah, I think so. But the St. Luke's has been very gracious to let us do that story every year.
That's a story, a local story that ends up in national publications all the time.
Yes, it does, and people love it. This year we're doing a brand new story, and kind of got inspiration again from your show and different things. We're doing the real Homer Simpson.
Oh, wonderful!
Oh, great.
And And if this works the way we want it to, there's some old jail cells in that old jail building there behind the Presbyterian Church.
Yes.
And we are going to be telling that story in those jail cells. So I think that'll be pretty neat.
Well, I have to tell you this, Dwight. A friend of ours ran an office out of there after it was the county jail and after the church started renting it out. And the door going down to the cellar would open and close by itself.
Oh, really?
And it was so heavy that I could not use the knob and open it. I could barely move it. And it would open by itself and move.
It is haunted. I've been there.
So you may get your money's worth there.
I hope so.
We may have to get together, and you may have to add that to your story. That would be a fun thing to do.
Dwight, every year I mean to call and say, I want to be part of this. I've got a story back when I worked with the Sheriff's Department of a murder that happened here in Bradley County, and when we found the body and started to remove the bodies through this big hollow, it was in October like this, and there was a fog coming there. Every dog through the valley started howling.
Really?
And the hair on the back of your arm, your legs, everywhere. It was the most haunting thing.
You need to give
I'd
Ron
ever
a call
heard.
next year when you're planning it.
Yeah, we could embellish that one pretty good.
Oh, well, I mean, I've embellished it years already. But you know, we had actually looked for the body, and unfortunately the body had been, parts of it had been consumed by animals.
Uh-huh.
So we only found half the body, and
It was kind of creepy.
apparently some of the dogs through the valley may have been what
Participants.
had consumed, and when we removed their meal.
I'll help him write that story, though, Dwight.
Yeah, it's. I'm going, but it was one of those like, oh my God.
Oh, my God. Well, listen, yeah, we will certainly try to get with you next year on that one. That sounds like a good story.
So people that want to participate need to come to the Bank of Cleveland building, the old Philart building, right?
Yes, that's where.
And what's the cost?
There'll be 2 stories inside the bank, and there'll be 3 outside the bank. And if it's weather permitting, these will be towed outside. It's a rain or shine event, so if it rains, everything will be towed inside the bank, so it won't be a rained out event.
Okay, and how much is it?
$10 tickets for adults and $5 for students. And let me mention this one other thing too. We made a new story this year that Connie Gatlin's going to tell. There's a big revival about this Redback hymnal.
Yes.
Yes.
So we're doing the funeral songs of the Redback hymnal. There'll be live music while she tells that story. You'll get to hold a carnation, get to smell that carnation, and there'll be a casket on the table. It's going to be a great story about funeral songs of the Redback hymnal, and that's going to be a great story.
Okay, tell our listeners one more time what the dates are and times.
The date is October 26th and 27th. That's a Monday and Tuesday coming into Halloween, 6:30 to 8 o'clock. We try not to do a tour after 8 o'clock because of the time. It takes about 35 to 40 minutes for the entire tour. Tickets are $10. You can get those at the Chamber or the Downtown Bank of Cleveland.
Okay, who benefits from this?
This all the 100% of the money goes to the Allied Arts of the Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, and let me tell folks that the Allied Arts they are so generous with their money, especially in all areas, but especially in the schools. So this would be a good way to support art in our community.
Right. This event pretty much has been a standalone event, but this year I'm on the Allied Arts Committee. So this year we are bringing this under the Chamber umbrella. So now it's going to be labeled under the Chamber event. So we've given almost $300,000 back to local schools from the Allied Arts.
Absolutely. And I would like to mention, too, this is a pretty handicapped accessible event, don't you think?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. There's
Okay.
elevators in the bank if you need them.
Right. Sounds wonderful. Thank you, Dwight, for what you do.
You're welcome.
Thanks for calling. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Folks, we're going to take our 11 o'clock break here. We'll be back with you in a few moments. We would, during our break, we usually play Gone Home for those of folks that have left us this week and departed. And
Particularly those people in Oregon not just here in our community, but across the country.
Yes,
And
this is true. We saw a lot of flags at half-mast about that this week, and we've had some other shootings since then. Don't think we have a gun problem. We have a heart problem. We need to get our hearts right. Okay, folks, we'll be back with you in just a few moments.
You are listening to WOOP-LP, Cleveland, Tennessee. Whoop FM is a broadcasting service of the Traditional Music Resource Center, and we play America's original music.
Check into cash. The cash you need today is waiting for you at Check into Cash. It's your money, so come in and get it.
Get a payday advance today for up to $425. At Check into Cash, we make it quick, easy, and confidential.
The cash you need is right here, so stop worrying and stop in to Check into Cash today.
Borrowers often use payday advances over a period of months, which can be expensive. Restrictions apply. See store for details.
Check into Cash. Need help paying for life's little emergencies? Get the cash you need today from your friends at Check into Cash.
Get a payday advance today for up to $425. At Check into Cash, we make it quick, easy, and confidential.
Get the cash you need now at Check into Cash. Visit checkintocash.com for the store near you.
Borrowers often use payday advances over a period of months, which can be expensive. Restrictions apply. See store for details.
Hardwick Clothes, America's oldest tailor-made clothing company, has been making our best-selling navy blazers for 134 years. Visit Hardwick.com to get the $295 wrinkle-resistant travel blazer at the price of $195. Order by 3 and get by 10. Free next day air. Hardwick.com, America's oldest, and sewn in Cleveland, Tennessee since 1880.
just me.
Welcome back to Old Town Cleveland here on Whoop FM 99.9, or you can go to the internet at www.whoopfm.com. My voice is about to go.
We have a Cherokee Indian princess on the line, don't we, Ron?
Anyway, a programming note coming up probably right around the 1st of December. Dwayne Shriver and I and a few other guests probably will be here doing the wrestling mat again this year, talking about high school wrestling. Ought to be a very interesting seasons. If you look early, Cleveland Bradley, one of them going to be the state champs again this year. Pretty much Cleveland or Bradley County have been the champs for the last 22 years.
Absolutely.
Add Saudi Daisy one or two times, and then you've got it all.
Yeah, well, they're in their sub.
Hey, we got a caller here. Go ahead, caller. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Hello, Ron.
Oh, my God, how are you?
Hey, I had a little fall, but I'm okay. I'm in a wheelchair until I get through being dizzy.
Okay, well, you shouldn't be drinking and walking.
No, something made me dizzy. I wasn't drinking, but I fell in my room, and there's no place to get a hold of anybody, so I just had to keep hollering until they came after me.
What?
I got a little gash in the top of my head, but it ain't bad.
Oh, I thought you said you had a little gas. Oh, Miss Ella, you make us laugh.
Hey, I heard from Susie Q. She sent me a gown and a little Bible and some stuff.
Okay.
Well, that's nice. It's always nice to get gifts. Did you ever get our birthday card?
I never did. I don't know what happened.
Well, I don't know either.
Somebody ate it.
I send it to Miss Ella Miranda.
I don't know what happened.
Well, happy late birthday anyway. It didn't have anything in it but a birthday card.
Miss Ella, when you don't be drinking and walking around there and falling down.
Yeah, and don't be driving your wheelchair drinking either.
I won't.
All right, bye-bye.
Love you. Bye-bye.
Hey,
Miss Ella.
Our guest today is Ron and Debbie Moore. We're here talking about the Cherokee Indians and particularly the Trail of Tears, a program that we're working on right now that sometimes programs work out, sometimes don't. But a friend of ours a new friend, Sean Patch, he lives over in Greensboro, North Carolina. He is an archaeologist.
And we have shoes older than him, it looks
definitely.
like.
But he just done a project at Hiawassee Island. He done ground penetrating radar and amazing stories and finds on they're trying to make that a national historical place.
I don't know why that would even be a question.
One time the island was 700 acres. Now it's 300 acres. Thank goodness the Cherokee and the Woodland Indians lived long before up on the higher parts of that. So hopefully we'll be in here and he'll tell us about all the archaeological things he's done there and some other places here in Bradley County. I think Ledford Island is also in the project.
And the mound in Princeton Hills Estate.
Yes.
Let's get this call.
Good morning, live on Old Town Cleveland.
Hey, Ron, it's P-Dab.
Hey, P-Dab, how wet are you, buddy?
I'm about to dry out now. It's about to quit raining.
Good.
The ladies wanted me to call in and tell you about the quilt show that's going on till 4 o'clock this afternoon.
Okay.
At Mount Olive Church. They've got more quilts than they've ever had, I guess. And they're having a real good time. They had a good turnout yesterday, and they expect another good turnout today. It's raining all the outside events, so go be inside and view the quilts and get a chance to win a handmade quilt.
Wow. And is there admission fee there?
There's $3. That just kind of helps cover the expenses, and so.
Is there good stuff to eat out there?
Oh yeah, they got plenty to eat. They've got a good lunch today, and so Ron be tickled. I think they've got hot dogs, chili, coleslaw, hot slaw, whatever.
Now that is a civilized hot dog when it's got hot slaw.
Yeah.
How's the tractor show going?
I'm just now getting up there.
Okay.
I'm not there. It just now quit raining, so I'm going to go up there and set up. But I called a while ago, and they said it was it was set up. They had them spread out like a hot lunch up there.
What will you be showing up there, P-Dab?
Well, I'll have my whiskey still, and I'll have a bunch of old farm equipment stuff displayed and stuff. So anybody wants to come on up, it's...
We need to gather up our new junk to show you. We cleaned out Ron's dad and grandpa's tool chest, and we have no idea what some of this stuff is.
Well, give me a call, and I'll come look at it, and I'll tell you.
Okay.
I can tell you. And I'm sorry I didn't get to make it today, but...
well, that's okay. We appreciate you thinking about it, and we're doing just fine.
When do you go slaughter those hogs?
It'll probably be the last of November, sometime 1st of December. It don't look like it's going to turn cold enough.
Yeah, I knew it had to be cold, and I figured it'd be sometime November.
The temperature has to be where it don't rise above 45 degrees and for them to keep and everything. The best thing to do is to get them when the nights are about 25, 28 degrees, and it rises up to about 40.
Yeah, it may be a little bit past November for that. Yep.
Yeah, it'll be about December.
Well, P-Dab, if something exciting's going on up there, you call us back.
I sure will.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye. I had called P-Dab from Missouri and said, "Oh, P-Dab, I need help."
We're talking about Cherokee history today. You can call us here at 614-5553. Quite often, and I asked Deb this, and she says she don't know anything, but she'll give us an answer anyway. If everybody that lives in the area says, "Oh, I had it. There's a Cherokee in my background."
And that's
Cherokee.
probably true.
And that is possibly true. Sometime likely. Deb found out the hard way it wasn't.
Well, I have lots of... We went to family reunions in North Carolina, and there were lots of Cherokees there. So as a child, I assumed that I was Cherokee. But then when I got up and started doing research, those ladies had married into my Robertson family. Let's get this call.
Good morning. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Good morning.
Good morning. What's going on?
Well, there's nothing going on in Charleston yet because it's still just a little drizzle.
Okay.
It's supposed to clear up here in just a little bit, and hopefully everything will break out and dry up a little bit, and people will start coming out.
Okay. Who is this?
One of your favorite people.
Well,
Greg.
Greg, I recognize the voice at that moment. Yeah, P-Dab just called him. He said he's on his way, and so I think that the rain's going to stop here in the next hour or so. Maybe it'll get wound up. How late's the activity supposed to go, Greg?
Pardon?
How late are the activities supposed to go at the park today? Do you know?
I don't really know, but it'll be all day tomorrow, too. So.
Okay, yeah. Like 1 to 5 tomorrow or all day?
I think so. I've not looked at it, really.
Well, I'll tell you, my internet has malfunctioned, and it has a really nasty message here for somebody who's going to have to fix some hardware, apparently, so I wasn't able to look it up. Greg, tell the folks about the property you own there in Charleston and who it belonged to.
Oh, just a moment. Let this train from 1850 go by.
Okay.
We've got those flying off. Okay. Well, what do you want to know?
Well, tell them about Lewis Ross.
Okay. Well, one of the... Pardon?
We didn't say anything.
Okay. Well, Lewis Ross was a brother to Chief John Ross. And Chief John Ross was the principal chief of the Cherokee Nation. Can't really remember the years, but he was the longest running chief of the nation. And he and Lewis effected the removal, the peaceful removal, with the U.S. government. And actually, the National Park Service is in certification mode on this property, which would have basically encompassed the whole city of Charleston, for the most part. Lewis Ross owned the whole reservation. It was his reservation, and through the charrette that the Park Service held last year, wasn't it?
Yes.
Last January, somewhere around in there. But anyway, through that charrette, we learned that the Lewis Ross property was the only property in the city of Charleston when the 1839 map was drawn up by the federal government, and the streets were named and laid out
and they were named out for the generals and the other people who affected the removal from the government site. And that would be Cass, Wool,
Cass and Wool, and Scott Streets.
Scott. But anyway, the way that they looked at this and looked at that map shows the spring right directly behind my house and a couple of other springs, and I brought to light that there was a spring house there. And they went as far as drawing that spring house in. I think it was a 10-by-10 spring house. But it's directly outside of my master bath window. You look right down on it. Actually, I'm sitting here looking at it right now.
Yeah.
But very, very interesting story. One of the greatest books I've ever read on this. It's actually about John Ross, but Lewis played such a pivotal role.
This is how I sum them up. I think John Ross was the people person, and he could shake hands and make friends and get people to do stuff, but he couldn't handle money very well, and Lewis did that for him.
He was the politician, and Lewis was the businessman.
Yes, there you go.
When he died in 1870, I think, somewhere around in there, I think he was worth $1.5 million. That was after they all had to move to Park Hill, Oklahoma, and Tahlequah.
Well, when I visited them in the cemetery in Oklahoma, I told Lewis you said hey.
Oh, okay. Well, great.
But now let me understand this. The house that beautiful house that you live in, that you so working so hard to restore, is not Lewis's house.
Parts of it is.
We think at least foundations, right?
Yes.
And possibly some parts of it are the Lewis house.
Yes.
I think so too.
Yeah. It's and that's what it's why it's so hard for the what is it, the historical registry.
Yes.
National Historical Registry to certify and take it in simply because of the fact that it's changed so many through 2 centuries of time.
And it was pretty famous in itself as a like a stagecoach stop, wasn't it? Or
yes, yes. It's mentioned. There's a book named "Toward the Setting Sun." There's quite a few references. I've seen this in several publications and writings where people would travel through. And they would stop and they would say it's one of the finest homes we've ever been in, furnished with the finest furniture, et cetera, et cetera. But realistically, it looked like the what they call the John Ross house down in Rossford.
Yes.
It was about the same type of construction, collaborative construction, and it was a nice home at that time, more of a premier home, not quite as extensive as the Van House.
No. But still under the same style that you had a portion of the house on the left, a portion of the house on the right, a big hallway in the center.
Yes.
Yes. And the upstairs part of the house usually had a porch that came out, a door that came out onto a porch.
On the top.
Yes, and the Indian overhangs on their houses were very short. It's something that I've observed looking at the old buildings. Well, Greg, I'm so happy that you have that house and you're doing your best to take care of it. And I would really like to see the Park Service find what parts are original.
Yeah, well, exactly. And there's foundations. These things are just washing up in the yard. Believe it or not, I found several markings of foundations that are coming up through the ground.
Well, don't move those.
Oh, pardon?
I said don't move them.
Oh, I can't.
Yeah, you can't. But keep those there because that's the thing. This ground penetrating radar will help them see what might be there without digging your yard up.
They are rock foundations, so and I've got them.
Yep. Whoops. Sorry, Greg. Push all the buttons, Ron. Well, thanks for calling, Greg, and don't get too wet up there looking at that farm equipment.
What I was getting at though was with the change of the house, the structure, and it being a Victorian style now, is that it's been hard to get the registry to look at it.
Yeah.
But there's other avenues. You know, it was a hotel after that, the Barrett Hotel, and there's.
I would think it'd qualify just in its present state as just being the house from the 1925s that it probably is, or 20s.
1820.
1820.
Yeah, and it's actually supposed to be the oldest continually inhabited home in Bradley County. That's according to other publications.
Very interesting.
So, but there is a man that wrote this book, Toward the Setting Sun. Very, very, very good book.
Okay.
Brian Hicks.
Hicks. Okay.
Are you familiar with that?
No, I'm not at all.
It shows it's more about John Ross, but Lewis played a very pivotal role all through this book. And Brian Hicks is from Cleveland. Didn't know that until I got finished with the book. And he also worked on the Hunley projects. He lives in Charlotte now. So
very interesting.
Very interesting book.
All right.
Anyway.
Thanks, Greg.
Hey, you be good.
See you. No, I'm not going to be good. Bye-bye. But, I think the thing about Fort Cass is that they moved 3,000 Cherokees from North Georgia and North Carolina and Tennessee to Fort Cass. And at some point in time, there were 4,800 people there. Let's get this call.
Good morning, live in Old Town Cleveland.
Good morning, Ron.
Hey.
This is Pat Gear.
Yeah. Hey, Pat, what's up, buddy?
Let me ask you some questions here.
I may not know the answer, Pat, but go ahead.
Dude. One of them is, I've read Jack Walker had a bronze plaque set in a stone wall marker in his home and grave. Does that still exist?
No, sir.
It's missing.
In the 1960s, when the Keith Street was built and widened there, it disappeared in the middle of the night. Mr. Sparkman guesstimated that the big granite stone was 5 tons, and it did have a big plaque marker on it, bronze plaque on it. And in the 1970s, the marker that's placed there now was put there by the Historical Society. No one seems to know what happened to the giant rock. I imagine it's buried in the middle of the intersection there. And the plaque had been taken, is my understanding, to the C.C. Card's auto company to be cleaned, and then nobody knows what happened. It disappeared from there, so we don't know. But it was there. You can find it in the, I can't remember the name of the book. It's the dark blue book that has the pictorial history of Bradley County in it. There's a picture of it there. It was dedicated
During the dedication.
1920-something.
Yes.
Okay, now, let me ask you about the old federal mail route that the Cherokees granted in the Treaty of 1805. Is that the old federal road went through Old Columbus, Polk County?
Well, I know that the old federal road did come through that area, and that's about all I know about it. But that was one of those things that the Cherokees were told, we need to develop a road in here so you can establish trade routes with the white people. Well, all it did was open it up to let the troops in and the people in that they didn't want.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it did. It came through Columbus. It came over, and I think it crossed over Bates Pike over there close to Union Grove Church. It came by what's now the Rock Quarry. It came out close to Spring Place Road, crossed Cahulla Creek. Then it turned and came down through Black Fox in one direction. But, part of it's at Blue Springs Road. I think it's just what's marked the old federal road, isn't it? Is that the same road you're talking about?
Yeah, I believe it is.
Okay.
But I'm not sure.
Now, Georgia has it pretty well marked from Tinga south through Georgia. We do not have it marked, but we need it marked. And sometimes it was basically the Indian trading trails and how they got their animals from one place to the other and that stuff, and then it just turned into the federal road system. But that's how they got the troops in here to move them out. And I don't know if that was the original plan, but that's what happened. And we know part of it went down through McDonald because DeSoto's men documented that they were down there at Tucker Springs.
Okay, now have you located Hiwassee Old Town that was on the Hiwassee River in Polk County?
Well, now one Hiwassee town is what's now Ducktown, but that's not on the Hiwassee River. No, I haven't.
That's the one I'm talking about.
That's not the one. You know, I find that name is used so much, it's kind of hard to sort them all out, but I know Ducktown was Hiwassee town, and Duck and Turtle lived there, yeah. Where do you think it is, Pat?
I tried to go by the what Lewis and Nieberg described it in their book, Hiwassee Island, and I'll fix it in the vicinity of Turtletown Creek in Polk County.
Okay. Well, Turtletown and Ducktown's all right in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's a historical marker when you turn into the Ducktown Basin Museum. On the opposite side of the road, there's a historical marker there that said that area was once known as Hiwassee Town.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the evaluations come, you know, like Duck had an evaluation up there, and it listed as being in Hiwassee Town. And Turtle had one too, and it was listed as being in Hiwassee Town.
Well, that would be on the Great Warpath, which I think that name is really a misnomer there, because you go back in ancient times, it was a trading path more than a war.
I agree. Especially in this area. We didn't have a lot of, this was more hunting grounds than it was places that people were living and fighting with other tribes over. But now the Cherokee did come in here and run some other folks out. I believe they were leftover creeks. You think that's true?
Okay, now let me say one more thing about Candace Creek Mission.
Go ahead.
Hildebrand, the man that has it now, I asked him if he'd be open for someone to survey that area, and he said he would. So it would be good if somebody could get in there with a ground penetrating radar or something like that.
Well, now it has to be fairly cleared off before they can do much with the ground penetrating radar, but we could at least get in there and find some foundations or something. So I will, this Patrick, that's the archaeologist that's going to come to this area, we will definitely need to get a hold of Mr. Hildebrand and take him up there.
Yeah.
And let him at least look at it, because to the trained eye, they can look at things and know where buildings and things sat where I can't. I'm getting better at it, though.
Okay.
Thank you so much for calling, Pat.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Pat always has good questions.
I'm going to read off some names of things that are related to the Cherokee that some people may have overlooked or got used to. Mouse Creek.
Mouse Creek.
Let me get through the whole list and you can go back to them. How's that? Mouse Creek.
I can only think one thing
okay.
at a time.
Mouse Creek, Georgetown, Kahulla, Candy Creek, Harris Creek, which was Hares Creek,
on
Harris Conrad, Flint Springs, which was part of the John Ross farm when he moved to Tennessee, Red Clay Place and the Red Clay Mission, Otter Lifter's Place, John Martin's house, Fort Cass, Fort Butler, which is right over in Murphy, North Carolina, Benabout, and Fish Creek. We all know where Fish Creek Market is, but that's related to. So go back up to Mouse Creek.
Okay. Mouse Creek, well, obviously everyone knows where Mouse Creek is, but it actually, the headwaters of Mouse Creek, I understand, or a significant portion of Mouse Creek, was in the area of a man named Mouse, is what I understand. I have never looked, a Cherokee, I have never looked for that, but that's what I understand. And in some of the old books, they reference it to maybe the Mouse people, but I don't know anything about that.
Now, Georgetown
was named for Chief George.
His house just burned, right?
Yeah, we just lost that old magnificent house, and it just breaks my heart. It was right there as you go into Georgetown, and you'll notice there's a street up there says Cherokee Village Lane or something. I mean, that whole area right in there was the crossroads of some road, as Pat was just talking about. It could have been part of that big road, or it could have been, we're sure that there were thousands of Indians that went through there on the Trail of Tears. But Chief George's house was right there. It was white, had white aluminum siding on it for years, and they were in the processes of remodeling it, and unfortunately it caught on fire. The center part of the house burned, which burned all the ends of the logs, and the family has removed the logs. I hope that they were able to sell them to someone that needed to do some restoration on another building.
All right. So Coahulla, Coahulla Creek.
On the evaluations, you find a Cherokee named Coahulla, and usually if you were living next to the headwaters, the creek was named after you, or if you had a large portion of land that the creek ran through, it was named for you. But there was an Indian named Coahulla, and the creek was named after him.
And we're the headwaters of Coahulla.
I think it's over on Bates Pike.
There's someone wanting to go see the headwaters. Well, it's people from Prater Mill. Coahulla Creek runs down into Georgia and operates the water that does Prater Mill.
Yes.
So they want to find the headwaters of Coahulla. I think it's over Bates Pike area.
Bates Pike, fairly close to Mr. Steele's farm.
I think
across the street.
Someone knows where the headwaters of Coahulla. Candy's Creek, Michigan.
Now, there may be several big springs that feed into that creek, but the actual headwaters.
Yeah. Candy Creek, Michigan, we talked about. Harris Creek, everybody knows where Harris Creek runs down, is in the backside of, what's the farm? Jackson's farm. And Blythewood. That's Harris Creek back there. It runs into Candy's Creek. Tell us about
that farm there belonged to Hare Conrad, and he led the very first group on the Trail of Tears. Got sick part of the way out there. He was aged at the time, and he came back. We think around early 1800s. He built the cabin that's on Mrs. Neal's farm, and that we know that there's Civil War stories attached to that building, and we think and it was occupied, past the time that electricity came, by folks, so it was occupied for centuries. But the creek starts there at the house at the springs where Blythewood Farms is my understanding, and that spring and the runoff of it was called Hares Creek, H-A-I-R-S apostrophe S, that is Hares Creek, and that kind of got, somebody looked at it later and went, oh, this must mean Harris Creek, and they changed it on the maps. But on the old maps, Candy's Creek is C-A-N-D-Y apostrophe S after the Candy family.
And we're pretty sure that there was a Cherokee Trail that came through that area.
Well, Mrs. Neal, who I think is one of the greatest historians ever, well into her 90s now, listens to our show faithfully, I understand. But she told me that there's a part of the road, a small part of the road that's behind that cabin that was part of the Knoxville-Chattanooga Road. And I'm sure it was not called the Knoxville-Chattanooga Road originally. And when you look at it, you can tell that it's a very small portion, very narrow road that runs in behind there.
On Georgetown, coming out that way, not Georgetown, I guess it is, yeah. There was a marker tree there with the Cherokees, and
someone cut it off. Cut its limb off. Let's get this call.
Go ahead, call. You live on Old Town Cleveland.
Yes, I wanted to. This is Terry K. Woodbury County Commissioner, and I was listening.
Hey, Terry.
Hi, who am I talking to?
This is Debbie Moore.
Oh, okay. Well, Debbie, you said?
Yes.
Okay, Ronnie's wife. I know who I'm talking to.
Okay. And I can tell you've known Ron for a long time since you called him Ronnie. Go ahead, Terry. What would you like to talk about?
Exactly right, I have. When I was listening to you talk about the Candies Creek Ridge Road and coming Paul Huff, if you turn onto Candies Creek Ridge Road, the spring you were referring to, I'm pretty sure you're talking about Norman's, the old Norman Farm spring. But when you said it was on the right, which would be on the ridge side, it's actually, if that's the one, it's on the left.
Well, thank you for correcting me on that. Terry, I have been told a lot of different things about that. And the road, when they cut that new road in there, it may have changed that a little bit. I need to get out there and let Mr. Hildebrand take me around on his farm and show me for sure.
That'd be great. As a boy, my mother would send me over there to get buttermilk. They'd keep the buttermilk in that spring.
Love it.
And we lived about a half a mile from that.
Now, do you remember the old Ross farm out there?
Yes.
Yeah, I understand they've removed a lot of those buildings now.
Well, that's sad, but I grew up in that whole area. I want to tell you something that as a young man, myself and two of the boys I went to school with, the Indian mound that's now part of Jim Sharp's, one of his developments.
Yes.
We went over there and we dug for half a day trying to find some kind of relics or anything that we never did find anything. We only went down about 3 feet, I guess. But that was a huge mound that most of us boys in the community knew about. We always wondered what was in it. And I think the Indian nation has some,
a conservatory ship.
It was what?
They've done a conservatory ship on it. That means that they bought it to protect it, and Mr. Sharp protects it too.
Was it a burial site?
I think, Terry, that was actually like a village mound that would have had their temple on it, but they would inter people there. And we have a archaeologist that's going to bring his equipment, and he was wanting to look at that mound to see what's in there. But I know that when they got away from the mound and started building roads in there, that they found some bodies, and the Cherokee people reinterred those bodies in that mound. So they're going to find bodies there now, but that's not their original location. I would think that, yes, there will be people buried on the sides of that mound. But I think mostly it was a village mound that they set their buildings up on so they didn't get flooded, and it was used partly as protection, too, from people that might be sneaking up on them.
It's a woodland Indians, and probably the Cherokees, when they got here, probably built their village up on it also because it was a good high point from the creek.
The archaeological report that was done at the time that all of that was done basically states that mound is as important to the history in this area as the pyramids in Egypt.
Wow.
It is woodland Indians. It's almost prehistoric people's mounds. And thank goodness that Mr. Sharp knew what he was doing. And when he bought the property, the Lee family told him that the mound was there. And instead of going, uh-oh, and bulldozing it down, he took less than what the mound was worth to put it in this conservatory ship. I understand that he is paid a small fee each year to maintain that. But we need to, as historians in this area, get a marker put up on that so people know what they're looking at.
Absolutely. I agree 100%.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about one marker that I don't believe is there anymore. When Paul Huff was built, there used to be a state marker that told a little bit about that junction there where Candies Creek splits off of Paul Huff. Is that still there?
No, absolutely not. It mysteriously disappeared during the road widening project, which is what happened to a lot of our markers. I've had Mrs. Sparkman ask me too. She said that there was a sign there that said something about a chief, and I do not know. I have not seen a picture of that marker, and it wasn't an official state marker, so there's not any thing from the state there. I think it was something that was done locally. So if anybody has a picture of it, I need to see it. But there was a marker there that told about Candies Creek Mission that was put there in 1938. It's gone now. And something that we talked about earlier, Terry, is that we'd like to get that marker replaced and have it put at the new city elementary school that's just going to be across the road from that area, and get the school named Candies Creek Elementary.
Well, I will certainly support that and try to help you any way I can. I'd love to see that done. We need to preserve that history.
Well, as a county commissioner, you know that we preserve history, but that history will bring lots of tourism to this area. We got the folks in Charleston doing an excellent job. I'm working with a young man down in the Flint Springs area to get some stuff done down there. And we need the Candies Creek Mart, and we need to get back our markers that we've lost. We also lost the Rattlesnake Springs one.
Well, Debbie, I appreciate you taking all this interest in this, and I'll try to get on board and see if there's something I can do to help.
Well, I think sometimes if you just write a letter, and I'll let you know when we're ready to do that, to show that there is support in the community, I think that would help more than anything. Because I appreciate the people that they might want to name that school after, but we certainly need to recognize that was the first school, or the first school that we have a record of here in Bradley County.
Wow. That's correct.
Terry, I think what the city is waiting for is for you at the county commission to build some big new school so they get a third of that.
You're exactly right.
That's what they're waiting on, I'm afraid.
I think it'll happen pretty soon, though. That they're going to be forced into starting that building, and like I say, I'd like for it to recognize the fact and have that sign right there, so the children would see it every day, and maybe start that conversation about how important education is, and the famous people that came out of that school.
Well, I agree with you. And the Walker Valley project is the money they're looking for third for, and the city is, and we've got to get that done. It's going up every day we delay it. So
right.
Well, I applauded the fact that the new school up there in Walker Valley was named Walker Valley School. It could not have been more appropriately named, since the Walker family owned that whole valley. And I'm really glad that we did take time to recognize that fact.
yes, me too. And I hope I said Lake Forest. I didn't say Walker Valley, did I?
You said Walker Valley.
Well,
yeah.
But yeah, I know there's a big Lake Forest project.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I apologize. I meant Lake Forest.
I will be happy to see Lake Forest get repaired and up to the par that those folks deserve.
Right. Well, thank you for taking your time.
Thank you, Terry.
And good talk to you.
Bye-bye.
All right, Deb. That's good. You know, like I say, if you turn in late.
Okay, my brain is thinking that, yes, the spring's on the left-hand side of the road, and the building was up on the right-hand side of the building. I mean, up on the right-hand side of the hill.
That's a cliff there.
It is a cliff.
Yeah. If you were here earlier, is that Kenny's Creek Mission, the first white man education, brought in to educate the Cherokee, the Foremans, Bushy Heads, Bigsby's, and
Walkers.
We
actually have a copy of a roll book from there.
Very legendary people from Bradley County were in this first school. It's right across the street, basically, where the new city school is going to be built out on Georgetown, and we're asking the city to name that Candies Creek Elementary in honor of Candies Creek Mission, and then put that new historical sign, which will cost us about $1,700 to get it replaced. The Historical Society, maybe Terry and the county will pay for it when it gets over there, or the city schools.
You know, we have some very generous folks here in Bradley
Yes.
County that have foundations too. Let's get this call.
Good morning, live on Old Town Cleveland.
Good morning, Ron. Debbie, how you?
How are you, sister?
Listen, was that Terry, is he a school teacher or was it just...
He was a principal and a teacher, I believe, Mr. Terry Kaywood.
Yep.
He's now on the Bradley County Commission.
Yeah. Well, I talk to his son a lot, and I've never met him, but he acts like he knows who I am. But he's definitely helped me with some of the stuff over in my section, and I'm going to have to call him and remind me. We got a guy that owns a house next to me. He just don't want to do nothing with his trees.
Yeah.
And I have a building there, a carport, and I'm afraid his pine trees are going to fall over on my building, or either my next house behind me going to hit her house. But I've called him 3 times, and he'll say, "Oh, I'll run by," but we never meet him.
Okay.
So anyway, I'll call
Terry and see if he can talk to him. Maybe that would help some.
Well, I've heard that the guy that owns the house next to me, he made his bags. He's going to rent it to these Mexicans, and that's just exactly what he did. And they don't keep their place clean and all. And of course, they don't speak our English. You know that. And so I'll call Chris on Monday if I don't forget it and tell him, because he told me Mr. Turner was over this section now. So that's what I'll do.
Yep, that's what you need to do. Well,
All
darling, you stay dry.
I'm going to play you a song.
Now, Ron,
Yeah.
let me say this. Now, don't feel like you have to play that song for me every week, because I mean, I like it, but I don't want to
Well, if
It's just become part of our show.
If I didn't play it every week, everybody say the show's not over yet.
That's the official ending of the show. We have to play Swinging.
Well, I do like it, but
Well, we like it too.
Well, I load it in the system no more than I get here in the
He
morning.
sure does.
I go ahead and put it. I put it in there every week.
well, I've listened to this morning. I've enjoyed it, but all this happened before I was there. I don't know nothing about it.
Well, that's why we do that, because we want people to realize what a historic place this is.
This is a very historic place we're living in, and we just like to share that. And the more we learn about it, the better off all we are.
Well, of course, I'm from Hamilton County. I'm not originally from here.
Well, there's Indians down there too.
I know. And where did the Trail of Tears start from down there in that section?
At Chattanooga, at Ross's Landing.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, they gathered folks up in Sitico and Highland Park and over on the Amlicola Highway.
Oh, really?
There were lots of encampments down there, too.
If you ask the Cherokee families, they'll say the Trail of Tears started at their front door.
Is that right?
Yeah,
wherever they were.
When the troops come and said, get out of your house and go to Oklahoma, that's where the Trail of Tears began. Those are thousands of starting places.
Well, see, I never did see my grandparents on either side, so I have no history whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, thank you, darling. We're going to run. Bye-bye.
I appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I wanted to say, Ron, that we heard a young man speak, had been on the bicycle ride that goes the whole trail from New Echota all the way to Tahlequah, and he said that on the Trail of Tears, his people lost their past and they lost their future, but they persevered. And by that, he meant that so many of the babies and the young children died on the trail because it was too hard on them, and so many of the old people, so they lost both their past and their future on the trail. But somehow they have managed to hold on to their culture.
They also said when they got to Blythe Ferry and they got on the boats and crossed over the river.
These are these young bicycle riders under 25 years old.
They said this is when our parents looked back, our great-great-grandparents looked back to see their homelands in the mountains for the last time.
And said thank you to the mountains. Let's get this call.
Good morning, you're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Hey, Ron, can y'all talk about the Woodland Indians? Have y'all ever heard of them, the Woodland tribe?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, the Woodlands are...
That's what all the mounds... Who are we talking to?
It's Blake Shelton.
Hey, Blake. The Woodland Indians in this area are the people that built the mounds that you can see.
Okay.
And they were here, and then all of a sudden they disappeared. Nobody really knows why they left. And then the Mississippian people came in and lived for a while, and they just kind of left. And then the Cherokee and the Creeks were here for a short period of time, and the Cherokees got ran out of their land. And so they came into what had traditionally been hunting lands and took this area over. And lots of them, of course, you would live where the mounds were, because that's where the organized villages, parts of the old organized villages were still there. So they just kind of re-inhabited that area.
And the Woodland Indians are prehistoric. We're talking about 600 AD, some of them before Christ.
Oh, okay.
So
they was here then, way before the Cherokee.
Oh, yeah, Cherokees probably in this area 200 years at the time of their removal.
Yeah, they've just been here 200 years.
So they migrated, we understand, probably from northern Indian tribes.
Mm-hmm. Now, something that we've learned in the last few days, Blake, is that the Cherokees are thought to be related to the Woodland Indians.
Okay.
They had in the past said no, that they didn't have any relationship there, but now as we are getting information from the mounds and things, we're seeing that the family life, the structure of the villages and everything's the same as for the Cherokee. So now they're saying that those were their ancestors.
And Blake, you and I both would be surprised how many mounds they are in Bradley County and in Hamilton and McMinn and Polk. Deb and I know where there's probably 3 or 4 that no one talks about. Some people don't want us to talk about them, but they're mounds. And like say, Sean Patch is coming in to probably do some more work on Ledford Island with his ground penetrate. He's an archaeologist, and when he comes in, I'm going to volunteer and go help.
Right.
Because I want to be there.
Way up above Coon Denton Island, you where that's at on the Hiawassee?
Sure.
Okay, now up above there, there's rock shoals in there, and they said that the Indians built those, So.
Could be.
Oh, are there?
Yeah. Well, and one way to look for a mound, and I'll tell you, basically there will be water. They're going to be running water because that's where the woodland Indians would have built their villages to get water. Also, the water on one side acted as a protector from their enemy. It was sort of the wall for them.
Yeah.
And so then the mounds a lot of time were temple mounds. If you go down to like the new Chota, they've got mounds down there.
Cartersville.
There's some unbelievable
Huge
mounds.
mounds
Like 14-story high mound. It's huge. And that's where the temple was. And there's smaller mounds that were village people, but they did that to keep the water away from them, and they were harder to be attacked. And some of them had palisades or walls around them. So but yeah, we're talking about Indians long before, even before your mom was born.
That's pretty good ways back. I appreciate it. Good show.
Hey, thank you. Bye-bye. Real quick, Deb, I know if you think that you have a Cherokee relative, it is not easy to determine that. If you have, if you go back on the census, and I haven't done this research yet, but in my my great grandmother mother's name was in the census, was written in both English and in Cherokee. So most likely I have someone in my family that has some kind of Cherokee blood in it.
But they're listed as white people.
They may be listed.
I've seen one group of people in this area listed as Indian, and they were living up on Ginger Wilson Buchanan's farm.
So there are things called the Dawes Road, DAWES.
The Dawes Road will help you connect to the Cherokee Nation in Oklahoma. The Butler Roads will help you connect to the Eastern Band. Now, the Eastern Band is a whole show by itself, folks, and we'll have to do that. But Ron's getting great pleasure out of the fact that I was dead set determined I was going to find that Indian in my family this week, and I knew that I was related to the Rapers in Cherokee, North Carolina, that had married into my Robertson family, the white folks. So I got on this trail, and I tracked back for hundreds of years, and I finally found that Raper that would be a blood relative of mine, and I was so excited. And then when I tracked him down, he was from Kent, England. I was not a happy camper. And so Ron got kind of tickled about that because I was not happy. I said, well, anybody else would be excited that they found which relative came across the ocean to get here, but I was mad because he didn't come from the mountains of North Carolina.
But what she was excited about, what she found in that, was some Confederate soldiers.
3 Confederate soldiers.
So now, that she's been trying to be a daughter of the Confederacy. This will give her absolute proof now. But her proudest moment was one of her relatives had his finger shot off at Antietam. Now, I don't know which finger he was sticking up and which one he got shot off at those Yankees. But he got his finger shot off.
But he actually has a marker down in Whitfield County, which, you know what that means. Swanee or Shawnee?
We got Bullet here. Look in the microphone there, Bullet.
He's asking about a word. Say it again. Or Swanee. We have a lot of words around here that we know are not out of the English language, but they're older words than are in the Cherokee language. A lot of the words like Etowah and Ooltewah and
Etowah's not an Indian name anyway.
Town, isn't it?
Etowah is a Italian name or something, wasn't it?
I don't know.
Yeah.
That was Tasso that was an Italian name.
Oh, that's right.
But those words we think are actually Creek, but because of the removal, we've lost the meaning for those words, and that's unfortunate.
Conesaga, and you got to be careful how you spell this, is strong horses. It's an interpretation. And, of course, I left out a couple of letters there, and it was strong.
Not so nice word, yeah.
I said, Ron, shirt on too, Ron.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Conesaga, one of the people in Tahlequah recently that got the badge of honor put on their grave as being a survivor of the Trail of Tears was from Conesaga.
And so as I hear these stories, I want to see if I can't get the biographies of everyone that's been marked, because I think that we're going to be able to claim those people, and I'll be able to show the families, or some of the families, possibly where their family came from.
Talking about mounds real quick, if you have a big farm and you have water running through it, and there's a funny looking hill somewhere there, it could have trees on it now, and there would be small ones that would be round, which would be a burial mound. I'm small, about the size of a house. Or you could have a mound as big as a football field. So don't think of a mound as a small thing.
Look for that flat top and the flat sides. Of course, erosion and people plow them, those kinds of things.
But if you think that you may have one or are curious about it, give us a call and we can go by and look and say, Deb will say it's suspicious. That'll be her key word.
Something else that we see a lot, Ron, on farms here is when you get to the point where you could have forded the creek. Sometimes there's a little small mound on each side of the creek, which tells me that's the old road bed, and that showed people where to cross. And it may have gone back to ancient times, and the farmers just don't bother to plow those under or something. Next week, we're going to have somebody on here that can answer questions about the Overhills, Tennessee area, and that's Gerald Hodge from Overhills, Tennessee. He's the executive director there. He's going to be talking about trains and Indians and rivers and wars and Fort Loudon.
He'll tell us why Etowah is named Etowah. Actually, somebody just hung up a sign that said Etowah, and no one really knew what it meant.
I think that's true, too.
It became the city.
But anyway, Gerald Hodge will be with us next week. And then on the 24th, it's going to be the Graveyard Divas.
Oh, my God.
Myself and Laura Bryan Spann.
And we think Robbie Cody's going to come in.
We hope so, because Robbie can answer those questions about, can I bury Grandma in the front yard?
Do I have to have a coffin? Mm-hmm. Do I have to bury somebody in the front yard? If you bury somebody in the front yard, you do have to have a funeral director. You can't just bury them in the front yard without a death certificate.
Right.
In other words, you can't go put Paul in the backyard and get rid of him.
But anyway,
you can't do that. You might be able to bury him in the backyard, but you got to have a death certificate and a funeral director to bury somebody in your yard.
And we've invited him on because every time we have a cemetery show, people call in and start asking those questions. And so he'll be here to answer those parts. But Ron, what will be your job that day?
I'm going to push the button.
He's going to push the button, go, and say, go, Laura and Debbie. We were together all week at this conference, and every time we get together, we're just like attached at the hip. And I would say that she is far more knowledgeable than I am, and she knows a whole lot about, get your Calhoun and Charleston questions ready, because she knows a whole lot about that stuff, about where people's buried in the buildings and the removal and all of those things.
If you know somebody that's dead and been buried in these communities, Deb and Laura will be able to tell you where they are. If not, we'll be in the car that afternoon and find it, because they drive them crazy. Folks, it's been great. Always here on, first I want to say hello to Bullet. Bullet come in, and Bullet, you're looking healthier than you did the last couple of weeks.
I just picked to say Deb's looking awful healthy to me.
Well, both of you look like healthy.
But I'm going to have a procedure done Thursday. I want you to keep me in your prayers. They're going to put a stent in my heart.
Well, there you go. That'll make you feel a whole bunch better.
Gooder, yeah.
Well, and folks, as embarrassing it is to mention it, tomorrow you be looking at the Cleveland Banner. I was part of the breast cancer awareness magazine that's going in there tomorrow. So read the story.
We don't know what it says yet.
It's a little embarrassing, but I didn't want to draw attention to myself. But anyway, it's an important story to tell about early detection and fighting hard.
Very, very true. And so, folks, here's your history lesson every week. Go get those pictures from out of the shoe boxes, out of the drawers, and start getting some little white labels and getting someone in your family to help you write down who's in the pictures, and then share those pictures. That is our history. That pictorial history is, I can sit here and talk about it, but when I show you a picture, it gets somewhat more exciting. So do that. Take out your cameras and record your aunts, your uncles, your grandparents, and just keep a video history of your family. You don't have to be any fancy program. All you got to do is just record them and just save it. If you don't have a camera, get a recorder and do their audio. The audio recording of my grandfather is just unbelievable. It's up to you, folks. And because we'll always remember Pearl Harbor. But, Deb?
Will we remember Aunt Pearl? See you guys next week.
You are listening to WOOP-LP, Cleveland, Tennessee. Whoop FM is a broadcasting service of the Traditional Music Resource Center, and we play America's original music.
Check into Cash. Need a little